Hi, this is Carrie Miller from Honey Paw Soap Company. Today we're making watermelon soap. If you're here as a potential soap maker, let me encourage you first to make sure you understand lye safety. Always wear gloves and safety goggles at the very least, and we strongly recommend wearing a respirator when you mix up your lye water in a well-ventilated area. Here, I'm blending the lye water with the oils to create our soap batter. Since we aren't making intricate swirls for this soap and actually want it to be very thick when we pour it, we don't have to worry about over blending. It's time to separate the batter for different colors. Be sure you do all the math before you start mixing up soap. I decided to make the greens about 20% of the total weight, then 10% for the white layer and 70% for the red. Next time I think I'll increase the greens to about 25 or 30% of the total because I'd like that layer to be thicker. Initially, I used the same color for both greens, full strength for the darker one and half green, half white for the second one. But once I blended them up, I decided they were too similar for the look I wanted. So I added about a teaspoon of aqua to the darker color, and I think that turned out perfect. For pouring the green layer, I was going for a chunky, clunky swirl of the two greens. Again, I'm working with a pretty thick trace, almost a pudding consistency, because I didn't want to wait forever to pour subsequent layers. So I just sort of layered it in, alternating between dark green and light green. Since I did want there to be some swirl, I twirled the whole soap mold a few times to get some swirly shapes in there. Now that we're ready for the next layer, a couple things you'll want to make sure of. First, you'll want that bottom layer to be set up well enough that if you tilt the mold, the batter stays put. Second, you'll want to pour the next layer very, very gently so it doesn't break through. It helps to hold the pitcher as close as possible to the surface of the previous layer and use a wide spatula to break the fall. Since I'm again pouring at a very thick trace, because I'm super impatient, I had to very gently spread the white out as evenly as I could without pressing weird indentations in the green layer below. If you want your layers to be as flat, smooth, and even as possible, you might want to pour at a light to medium trace, then unlike me, be patient as it slowly sits up on its own. After pouring each layer, be sure to tap your mold carefully but firmly several times on your work surface or on the floor. This helps bring up any air bubbles so that they don't create little holes inside the soap. Now it's time to mix in our poppy seeds in that gorgeous deep pink batter. Some people make seeds out of soap dough, but I like the way poppy seeds look and they add some nice exfoliation to the soap. Just be sure you use a light hand because too many poppy seeds can make your soap too scratchy to the point you really can't use it. Many people recommend about half teaspoon per pound of oils, but you'll want to experiment to find what works for you. Since poppy seeds are relatively heavy, you need to make sure your batter is at a good thick trace before you stir them in, otherwise they'll sink to the bottom. Now, since we do not waste soap around here, we pour the excess batter into another mold to make some cute little sample soaps. On that note, be sure you're building some excess into your recipes rather than trying to figure out exactly how much you need for your mold. It's better to have some bonus sample soaps than to discover too late that you didn't make enough soap after all. Even with a nice thick trace, this batter took forever to set up enough for me to texture the top. I waited and waited and waited, and finally I caved in and just did what I could so I could be done with it. Next time I'll probably set a timer for 15 minutes or so and go away so I won't be tempted to rush things. Finally, sprinkle some more poppy seeds down the middle of each loaf just for a little extra cuteness. A few stats on this soap before we end. I used the lovely watermelon lemonade fragrance oil from Maple Street Candle Company. Colors from Mad Micas were the Maniacal Pea, Here Comes the Bride, and Voodoo Red-Pink. The aqua I used to darken one of the greens was Aqua Pearl from Bramble Berry. And finally, my workhorse soap mold, the 11-pound ProSoaper Triple Slab Mold from Workshop Heritage. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for this channel and leave a comment below if you have any questions. Honey Paw Soap Company signing off.